Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to tonight's webinar about the quality assurance of safeguarding and SEND. As Chris has already said, we are jointly the CEO and Deputy CEO of Create Partnership Trust.
Sam, is that you?
And we have...
is it possible tomorrow morning, I know you're in year 3, but after year 3, can you...
Bear with me 1 second, I'm getting some feedback. Hang on.
We all love being in year 3. My very first year group, love it.
And yeah, so we're the CEO, Deputy CEO, Create Partnership Trust, and we've been really fortunate to do a series of webinars for Evaluated with looking at curriculum planning, looking at preparation for Ofsted, and looking at how quality assurance cuts across those two things, and then building on that quality assurance of curriculum and quality assurance in preparation for Ofsted inspections. We've also created a set of webinars which look at quality assurance across a range of different areas in schools. Might be useful for CEOs, deputy CEOs within trusts, if recording to trust boards, to directors, or for head teachers of standalone schools in reporting to local governing boards. In terms of the information that is contained within the presentation, it's drawn from a number of different areas. So I've been lucky enough to lead schools in London and Manchester, Liverpool, Stoke, and now our wonderful schools in Birmingham, where we educate nearly 3,000 children in areas experiencing really significant deprivation. And then Chris obviously is drawing on his experience from not just leading Parklands in Leeds, but also supporting schools in Leeds as a national leader of education. And then we also have some experience as university visiting tutors at Manchester Met, and also with the Institute of Education in London. And I'm also a named school improvement partner for a trust down in Kent on the Kent South East London border. So some of the information in this is also relevant to coastal communities and schools like that. So hopefully you can see from that, wherever you are in the country, and whatever sort of school or trust you're leading, hopefully there's something there that gives it some context that's similar to the context that you have. And a lot of it comes from an awful lot of Ofsted experience, particularly in the last 18 months. So going back to sort of March 2022, or the last 2 years, going back to March 2022, a significant number of Ofsted inspections that Chris and I have been through in terms of being school leaders and trust leaders. I'm going to let Chris take you through the majority of this because of the way that our structure within Create works, and we'll look at why we quality assure, safeguarding and send, so the reasons behind it, how we do it for safeguarding and how we do it for send, and then I'll go through how we report that quality assurance to our directors and our trust board. And just before Chris takes you through the sort of practicalities of it, I just wanted to sort of set the scene a little bit, I think. So we've done this in each of our webinars now, is looking at why we quality assure and also why we don't quality assure. So in terms of quality assurance, which can, done well, massively improve the quality of schools, massively improve quality of trusts, and I think be a really positive experience for teachers and practitioners, and a process of positive validation for the fantastic work that they're doing. So we do that partly because of our trust value of aspiration. We know our children only get one chance, and they and their families aspire for them to achieve, and they have aspiration for us as well, and they put trust in us to have those aspirations for their children, and that's why we hold ourselves to account. We also, from a trust perspective, we quality assure as part of our risk management process. So those CEOs, deputy CEOs, trust leaders on the call, will recognise the language around this. It wasn't something that as a standalone head teacher I necessarily thought about, but I believe that quality assurance is part of the risk management process, whether that be quality assurance of teaching and learning or achievement or assessment, quality of learning of curriculum, and particularly in this case, safeguarding and send. That is managing risk for the organisation. And I think there's just as much risk in negative Ofsted judgments by having poor quality curriculum, or in terms of safeguarding children, or in not meeting the SEN code of practice, as there are in some risks around health and safety. So it's really, really important that we quality assure from a risk management perspective, and it's really important for our directors, for our trustees, for governors of schools, that they get accurate quality assurance information so that they can make good strategic decisions. And it's a question of them getting accurate information and information that's easily digestible to make those decisions. And the most important thing is that we quality assure subjectively. And I've long thought that quality assurance can be a positive process of positive validation for staff, as long as it's done subjectively against a very clear set of criteria, so staff know how to be successful. And why we don't quality assure is as part of the appraisal cycle. So this is not a way of feeding into capability. We don't quality assure to not just grade with a capital G, teaching and learning, but also to make any real appraisal of individual practice at all, whether that be a Senko or a DSL or a teacher or a leader. We don't quality assure as part of some sort of Mockstead process. We quality assure little and often, as sort of low threat and regular, rather than high stakes and infrequent. And most importantly, we don't quality assure objectively. This isn't quality assurance. How would Mark do it, or how did Chris do it at Parklands in Leeds, and how can we compare ourselves against that? This is a question of having subjective quality assurance against transparent guidelines that everybody's trained in and everybody understands, and giving everybody the maximum opportunity to be successful. So I'm going to let Chris take you through how we quality assure safeguarding.
Lovely. Thanks, Mark. Well, just to carry on with what we've said so far, every document that you'll see on here today, and all the past documents, whether it's on curriculum development, teaching and learning, assessment, achievement, everything is on the Evaluate Ed website, and it's all in Word, allowing you to download it and to edit and make these questions to your own. And then when we come to the Excel spreadsheet at the end, which summarizes everything, again, that is totally free for you to download and edit as you see fit. Just check out the Evaluate Ed sort of website. One of the reasons why we feel comfortable doing this is that although since 2016 we've had a wealth of sort of Ofsted experience, and these webinars are not whether we're pro Ofsted, against Ofsted, these are just pure and simply to help us guys have the tools to make an inspection as successful as possible. But significantly, the last 8 months, we've had 2 inspections at Create, and in the grand scheme of things, both really positive inspections. One school went from inadequate to good, and one school went from RI to good. So although it was a bit of a gamble for myself and Mark when we joined Create, because in the 18 months, the 2 years that we've been sort of here, the school only had 1 good school and 3 in a category, which meant we were vulnerable to be taken over by a larger and a bigger trust. But we both had enthusiasm, we both had energy that we wanted to come into a school where our own driving ambition is not get schools to outstanding, it's to make sure every school, whether you're in the north, or whether you're in the Midlands, whether you're in the south, whether you're in the southwest, then we just want every single school to be good, meaning that every single child is getting the best quality of education that they deserve. Because as Mark said, these children only get 1 chance. So it's essential that we make sure that these chances are taken, as it were. So it's okay, I had an eye operation on Thursday, and I'm just starting to get my vision back. So I pre-prepared all my notes so I don't have to read the rather small work on the screens. So the first set of questions is myself and Mark created a set of 15 questions. And these questions are used by myself as a deputy CEO, by Mark as a CEO, but significantly the head teachers can use these sheets to go through. If it's teaching and learning, the teaching and learning lead allows the teaching and learning lead to go through questions like this with their subject leaders in history and DT and other such things. So we wanted 15 questions that could really coach, develop CPD, and it wasn't ever to be used as a stick. It was always to be used as a carrot. So we created these questions, and obviously, irrespective of what your views are on Ofsted, the most important thing when an inspector comes in is looking at safeguarding. So we needed to make sure that the DSLs, the deputy DSLs, the DSL governors, the DSL trustees were all familiar over the most significant aspects of safeguarding in school. So we basically go down and I will spend half a day every half a term. So basically a day every full term, working with the DSLs. And then if it's on attendance or achievement, I'll spend half a day looking at that and so forth. Because time is everything. It's not just emailed through, fill this in, right? It's not a paper ticking exercise. It's there to develop, as I said, give experience to staff and to value the things that they know and the things that they want to showcase, as well as identifying to us and the trustees where any particular risk is or any particular actions or future training and things. So as you see, the 15 questions, we always start off with asking questions about the filtering and monitoring in schools. It's always nice for the DSL to know that it's something like Smoothwall that will send the reports and the alerts in. And then we can discuss with the leaders how often they look at the reports, what does a trigger look like, and that allows then for something to be flagged up. And we've got head teachers in our trust, and I wouldn't for well-being purposes or things. She's one of our head teachers doesn't mind doing a phone call at 9:30 to a parent's house and saying, can you check what program your child is on at the moment, because we've just had an alert sent through and things. So it's a great sort of tool and great to know what the filtering and monitoring situations are in school. And then we look at things such as child-on-child violence in school, or any kind of harassment, because there was an inspection around about 2-3 years ago when the school said to the inspectorate team that it's not really a primary issue, it's more high school. But that was automatically shut down straight away because, you know, it's for us to make sure that the children in high schools have a respect, then we have to pick this up at primary level. So again, there may not be many CPOMS incidents of this, but there's still training logs and other such things showing what we're actually doing to address these problems and how seriously we're taking it, especially when we're looking at the Andrew Tate situation and things looking further on. Then, as I said, looking through the questions, we're looking at questions on CCE, CSE, county lines and things. So, and then on the right-hand side of the document, we put the documents and practice that we'd like to see the DSLs in this instant referring to. It's because then it's, as I said, it adds to that training. So it's not used as a stake, right? Show me this, show me this. And all these information, all these questions are shared with the leaders, whoever it is we're speaking to, prior to us actually coming. So if we go to the next slide, please, Mark.
Just as it's moving on, I was just going to say to people, what we tried to do is break down on the right-hand side, always in terms of being subjective, the document and or practice that we're looking for, so everybody knows how that will be judged and how to be successful answering the question. And if you go back through the Evaluate Ed website, you'll see the seminars, the webinars that we've done in each of the different areas. And in this one, they might be more looking at paperwork, but in some of the other ones, teaching and learning or whatever, they might be more looking at practice actually, you know, on the ground and going around the school. Okay, so there we go, Chris.
Brilliant. So these next 3 or 4 slides are, again, because this was a new system that we only put into place around about September, October time, it was important, as I said, for the coaching of the staff that we give them the crib sheet. These are the documents we want for you to look at. But again, what I've done on these next slides is I've put potential answers. So if you're speaking with a head teacher, 99 times out of 100, they know the documents they're referring to. They know the specific answers you want to be hearing. But if it's a DSL that may be a learning mentor or needs some extra training as a DSL, as a deputy DSL, then it's important that we share. And these are the things that we want to be looking at. This is your evidence base and things. So again, all these next 4 slides are on the Evaluate Ed. You may, if you change your questions, you can find out, you can just add into these your sort of new answers that you'd like to see and things. Just turn over my.
And that takes us to how we quality assure SEND.
So, and again, I won't spend all the time going through all the 15 questions, but again, with SEND, so we've already seen that safeguarding is the most important thing in a school. And then our recent inspections over the last 2 months have seen SEND play a significant new role in inspections, okay? Being inclusive, and these questions will address those. And that, so SEND really played as a higher part as, say, looking at early reading and the curriculum sort of does. So we wanted to make sure SEND was a high priority in our trusts and across our school. So again, we've got the 15 questions, and then we've got the 15 kind of documents and practice that we want to see the evidence-based, and feedback from the DSLs themselves when we've been through this. And I'm now on the 3rd time of going around visiting, going through these. They feel empowered, they feel comfortable, they feel more confident in talking about case studies, about knowing exactly which CPOMS report just to pull up and show you. So again, part of our role is the coaching and the developing of the future leaders. So it's been really, I'm just looking at that presentation a bit too small and things. But as I said, it'll all be on the website by tomorrow, sort of anyway, and things. But I know how you feel. That's what I say. That's why I've just printed mine out. I think so.
Just looking at that, there's bits and pieces that might be more specific to our trust, I suppose, which you might want to, but might be to yours as well. So like question 4, how does the school develop and review bespoke offers for each child with SEND, ensuring progress towards independence? So all our schools have unofficial resource provision, withdrawal spaces for children with really complex SEND that probably would have been educated in specialist prior to the pandemic, and are now being educated in our mainstream schools without additional funding. So we've set up resource provision spaces, but we're really keen that the resource provision spaces or the withdrawal spaces are not seen in any way, shape or form as either worst a dumping ground for children with SEND to be removed, or indeed somewhere for children to be educated to make the lives of our other staff or children easier. And we use our unofficial resource bases as an appropriate way of educating the children at that point in time. But each of them has a bespoke offer which plans their route back to mainstream education. And that does that over a period of weeks and terms, or half terms and terms, with the expectation that each child will get back to mainstream and being educated within the mainstream. And that's in line with as you'll know, that's in line with the SEN code of practice. And for many of those children, that's going to be really tough and really difficult because of the level of complexity that they're experiencing. But that's why we ask question 4. And then it says there, look at an example of a bespoke offer and discuss with the SENCO. So the SENCO in that case will be asked to pull out one of the bespoke offers and to talk the person doing the quality assurance through the bespoke offer, looking at whether they have progressed from an amount of time within the unofficial resource base last week to an increased amount of time this week, and how that progress is planned, and at what point we expect the child to re-enter mainstream education in the most part, or certainly to their own best ability. So yeah, that's probably maybe a bit specific in terms of the way that we describe it, but I think most of the others are worded in such a way that they would be pretty general for everyone.
And again, we pulled these questions up we didn't just make them up, sort of willy-nilly. We use the SEND sort of code of conduct, and then we use an external quality assurance officer, a lovely CEO over at a special school in Norwich way, called Rachel Quick, who we actually team up with. So when we've done our quality assurance work on SEND, she will then come down and quantify the work that we've done to ensure that we're getting these children high school ready, because it's all right in primary school having lots of support and a lack of independence, but when these kids get to high school and they cut down to having very little support, it's our duty, and it's our duty of care to make sure that these children are accessing the high school curriculum, where they'll end up going on to do their GCSEs. Now, I know one or two people have said about the slides being a bit small. I've just noticed on my screen, if I go down to my sort of mouse area, yeah, I can actually blow the slides up myself, which made me jump out of my skin when I tried that and things. But lovely Rachel's also said that all these slides and everything will go onto the website as soon as this meeting's finished and things. So we've done our 15 questions. Okay. Now, first of all, this is all dummy data, hence that's why the numbers look so low and everything. But we've done our 15 questions. And then for the trustees, what we've tried doing, because obviously a trustee's role, a governor's role, these are volunteers, and what they don't want before a board meeting or a governor's meeting is to suddenly have 250 sheets of A4 paper, which they've got to read through and go through. So we wanted to basically do this in sort of threefold. One, we wanted the 15 questions for the schools, and then we needed a simple way to report this to trustees. So on this spreadsheet, what you can see there it'll have the 4 schools along the top, where we're looking at the different half terms of when we're going to, so we can see the impact of what we've done. What you can't see on this screen is at the bottom, there are all tabs. So you can tab on the teaching and learning, the assessment, the attendance, finance, health and safety, sites. So everything is on this one sort of document. And then we've got this random set of numbers. Now, as you can see, there are numbers that are 0s, 0.5 and 1s. And the way in which we score thing is if something is totally in place and we're happy and everything is compliant, this score a 1. Okay. If something is partly in place but just needs a couple of tweaks and things, this score a 0.5. And then if something's not in place, then we score it a 0. And then the trustees and ourselves as deputy CEOs and CEOs, we know then clearly what the action is for the next half term. Then what we actually do is we add up the total in the columns, and then we multiply that number by 6.7. And the reason why we multiply it by 6.7 is because each question is worth 6.7%. So if you have 15 questions and it's out of 100%, if you divide that by 15, you get 6.7. So then we get a number, which then we can report back to the trustees, where anything that's 90% or above is no risk to the trust. It's no risk to the school. It's no risk to anything. If you're scoring between 70% and 90%, it basically means there may be some risk, there may be a tiny bit of risk, but the schools are tending to mitigate against that. So if, for example, if we were looking at attendance and the attendance was 94.1, then that's behind the 94.5% national figure at the moment. But there's enough actions in place to show it's not a significant risk and things. But then obviously, if we've got a percentage that's between 50% and 70%, then that shows that there is a potential risk to the trust, or if it's a local authority school, there's a risk to the governors and the risk to that particular school. But it gives us a clear outline then of where it is, the action that needs to be sort of addressed. So that's the sort of spreadsheet that we look at. And then the third thing that we do then is, again, trying to keep things as simplistic as possible for the trustees and for the governors. We generally try to put it on one side, two sides of A4, a summary across, in our instance, 4 schools. Okay. If you're a standalone school, then obviously you're just looking at your own particular school. And then we'll highlight things that are already actions that was identified last time. Have they been addressed? Yes. So we can highlight those green. Are things still ongoing, such as if the need of CCTV around schools, but obviously not a lot of schools have got £15,000 just to splash out on a bit of CCTV, so they may stay yellow. If something is, if something's missing totally, it might be on the website or something, then that's coded red, meaning that is what our priority is. That's what our number one thing is to actually do. So this is what we call a quality assurance report to trustees. Now, because this is safeguarding, it tends to be a bit longer, because safeguarding, we bring in 2 external quality assurance mechanisms to quantify the work that we've done. And we use the brilliant Oxley safeguarding report that's done in October, then revisited in January time. And then we use Craig McKee's website audit to make sure that our websites are compliant and things. So on this sort of document here, on the first document, that is highlighting the points that we had to pick out from the Oxley report. And then the second part of the website, the second part of the report is the website audit, showing how compliant the schools actually are now. And again, if certain things are missing. And then, as I said, we wanted to make it as simplistic as possible for the trustees by not giving them 200 sheets of paper to go through. So they have this simple document, and then underneath this document, we will attach a set of appendices, okay, which then will have the real detail. So on one of the appendices, it may be about school A, school B for the second appendix, school C for the third one, school D, and so on, where that's got all the detail. That's what we're really showcasing, what we're really celebrating. And it's giving you the real specifics and the real sort of headlines for that school, which then allows the trustees to come in and ask questions and to challenge us about aspects that they've actually read and they've looked at and such. So that's the sort of 3 parts. For part 1 is the 15 questions, coaching and developing within the school. And then we report to trustees by using the 1, the 0.5 or the 0 system. Then we summarize that on a 1 or 2 side A4 report. And then it's the detail that comes in the appendices if the trustees so see fit. So if we were looking at school A, for example, that's got no Oxley safeguarding issues, it's 100% website compliant, then there's a trustee, they may think, we don't actually have to go through the 3, 4, 5 sides about that particular school in that aspect. However, if school D is only 50% compliant on the website, then that might be the document that they want to drill down into and see exactly why it's only 50% and such. Back to you, Mark.
So that's the basis of the way that we report to directors. And as I think Chris said, that the most important thing is that directors not only get the information that they need for to make the strategic decisions that they need to make and to manage risk, but they also get the external validation from an external partner who quality assures the work that we do as well. So I think if building a quality assurance system for a trust or for a school, I think is super important that there's checks and balances on that quality assurance system, and the way that we do that is through external validation, at least annually, in each of the quality assurance areas. So that builds on the quality assurance in all the other areas that you'll find on the Evaluate Ed website. It also, I'm sure Rachel's going to pick up on this, it also builds on the work that Evaluate do, and our links to within the IT system and how we're able to use Evaluate Ed. So Rachel, do you want to talk about how that sort of meshes in with Evaluate?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you to you both. Before I just jump in about Evaluated, we've got a question, and I'd just like to share it with you if that's okay. So it's how do you see the safeguarding Q&A linking into section 157 or the 175 audit requirements? Because it feels a lot lighter than current borough and MAT requirements.
Yeah, so Chris, I'll take a little bit and then you can probably jump in a little bit. So this isn't a single point in time safeguarding audit in the same way that a local authority or a borough safeguarding audit would be. That our external auditing by our external safeguarding partner satisfies that. This is light touch, little and often quality assurance rather than auditing. And I think actually it's a really good question in terms of the difference between auditing and quality assurance. So we use Oxley Safeguarding, as Chris has said, fantastic external audit partner, and highly recommend if you want to talk to them. And Oxley came out of work with the NSPCC and highly thought of by Mats and Trusts. So they do that audit work for us, and that's where the yellow and green statements on the quality assurance report to directors were based on that audit. What we're talking about here isn't auditing; it's an ongoing quality assurance system. Well, that's certainly how I see it, and I think how the directors see it. Chris, do you want to have anything to add from your side?
In fact, what I will do, Rachel, I'll email you as soon as this meeting's finished, and I'll send you our audit and things, because the audit is rather a hefty document, around about 15, 16, 17 sides. It's got every single bit of the bones in. But as I said, for quality assurance, it's little and often, and picking up the work that they've picked up on the audit and other such things. Let me just make a note of that, and I'll send it to you as soon as we've come off.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
In terms of quality assurance, I sort of see it as being like to stop the big things happening. So the sort of bedrock practices, the guiding principles that need to be in place in all the different areas to stop the big things happening that would then be picked up on an audit. But I suppose it also depends which way around you do it. You could do the audit first and then pick up all the practice in that and then run a quality assurance system on top of it. The two work hand in hand.
Fab. Thank you very much for answering that.
Next question.
I know, I'm just having a look. If anyone does have another question, please just type it in the chat or feel free to unmute and ask away.
I think did Barry ask one? Did Barry fly one up?
Was it earlier on? It was,
yeah.
Does your trust have a SEND unit to help children with SEMH, ASD, ADHD?
Yeah, so as I say, they're unofficial. So both Chris and I's background is in running resource provisions. I ran the only outstanding resource provision in Cheshire East and Cheshire West, and Chris, I think you the same in Leeds. And both of those official resource provisions had official designations for autistic spectrum condition children, and there were strict guidelines in terms of when children could enter those resource provisions, and namely that they had to have a primary diagnosis of ASC, and that needed to be named on their EHCP document in order to gain access to it. And I always used to describe it that when you passed over the threshold into that room, effectively you were not only entering special education, you were also entering social care, which is a completely different framework. So we don't have that. Birmingham local authority, as many of you will know, Birmingham local authority is also bankrupt, which doesn't help the job. So Birmingham doesn't have that, but previously I led schools and a trust in Stoke, and they also didn't have it as well. But in all of those 7 schools, there were unofficial resource provisions. In ours, most of the children in there have got an ASC need, but not exclusively so. So children, there will be some children with, receiving support in there for SMSC. And in truth, there's quite a lot at the moment with much more complex needs than that, including physical as well and medical. So they're not official designations, but they broadly work the same way.
Fab. Well, if I just
Oh,
kind of bring this
just
Go on,
to add in,
Chris.
just to add into there. I mean, one of the arts and the skills of our sort of trust is that one size doesn't fit all. So, for example, in phonics, if two schools use read, write, ink, one uses floppy phonics, one uses little wandle. So whatever the best fit for the school is, that's the way in which the school sort of runs. And it's like with the, as I said, the unofficial resource provision units that we've got, because 2 of our 4 schools have got the sort of unofficial extra support outside class, and 2 of the schools, the smaller ones, have actually got theirs in class. But as I said, from our recent experience, it was, if you've got children outside their classroom setting, the inspectors spent a lot of time looking at the quality of that education, because what we don't want to see, times have changed, thank goodness, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, is that these children that are withdrawn from lessons, have got to be having that high quality education. They've got to be making progress, and they've got to be seen as not just different to absolutely everybody else. So again, that's why it's essential for us that we use external quality assurance people to come in, just to ensure that these children are getting the best possible deal that we can give them and things. So
Lovely. Well, thank you both so much for all your insights this evening. It's been a fantastic webinar series so far, and I know that we've got lots of people who have been on previous webinars, so it's great to see people returning. We do have another webinar on the 19th of March, where Chris and Mark will be talking us through finance, HR and estates. And I just want to say to you both, really, and to everyone in your team and your school, but congratulations on the incredible achievements. It is incredibly difficult to take a school from requires improvement to good, let alone up to outstanding. And I think one of the things that's really sat with me from this session is that it's about these small things, little and often, and building on the successes, which I think is why we all work together so well, because that is part of Evaluated's mentality. It's celebrate that success, build and maintain on the success. Yes, there will be areas for development, and I think you've showcased brilliantly how you can pinpoint that across your trusts and across different schools, and how you can address it and lead in that quality assurance in such a supportive way, but it's developmental to those members of staff who might face questions and who want to develop. And ultimately, we're all on this webinar because we want the students to have the very best. So if you are looking
it's collaboration, not competition. As I said, myself and Mark do this with you guys out of love. There's no charge for anything, if you know what I mean, because if someone wants to use bits and bobs, they can do. If they've already got systems already in place, it's brilliant, then thanks for your time. But it's to make, as we said, north, south, east and west, we just want every single child to have the best possible education ever, whether you're in a huge mat, a small mat, whether you're a local authority school, whether you're a church school, anything.
Yeah. And it's, if you're interested and you think, oh, well, what is Evaluated about? Perhaps you're not using it. Please go and explore our website. You can book demos, you can get free trials. It's always very rewarding for me when I'm with Chris and Mark, because I can see how they've taken our tool and they've used it in a way that works for their trust. And that's one of the most important things for us, is that when you are using our tool, you make it work for your school and for your trust. So thank you so much. I cannot wait for the next webinar. Really looking forward to it. 19th of March. I'll make sure that I share this webinar on our website, and I will email you over the slides. Hopefully later this evening, might be tomorrow morning. So thank you very much, everyone.
I'll send you that the audit as well straight away now, Rachel.
Brilliant. That's lovely. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you again soon.
Take care, guys.
See you soon.